Hello and welcome to my Armored Knight guide for 3 Hopes. In this guide we're going to be going over all of the different things Armored Knight can do. I also tested some things in relation to its class action. So I actually tested the damage reduction and if it works versus magic, if it affects allies, things like this. So we're going to go over everything that I know about the class. We're going to go over basic attacks, how to use it effectively, when to run it and why. So to begin, the Armored Knight is an axe using class with high physical defense, so high defensive stat, and low res. So it's really good against physical attackers, it's really bad against magic users. Axe counters lances and is weak to sword. The Armored Knight is also weak to anything that is effective versus armor because it is an armored class. So weapons like Armor Slayer, Rapier, these will deal high damage to you. The class gauge adds a shield when filled. It fills over time and also when taking damage, and it also fills instantly if you get a perfect guard. So this class is all about the perfect guard, and we'll get into that later. Okay, so let's go over the class attacks. So your basic Y is just a horizontal slash for some damage, and your second Y is a second horizontal slash with increasing damage. Your third Y is like a slight downward slash that deals a little bit more damage than the second Y. Your fourth Y is a shield bash that pushes enemies back that deals medium damage. So you can see like the damage here. So the shield bash does basically 100 in this case. Now obviously these damage numbers change depending on level and weapons used, so these are not set in stone. It's just good to see the damage numbers in relation to each other, so you have a feeling of what your attacks are hitting in terms of like magnitude, and that will scale as you level up. Alright, and then your fifth Y attack is an axe thrust that's quite fast for medium damage. So there it is. Let's try to show it a little bit more clearly. There it is. And then the downward thrust, or I'm sorry, downward smash. So it goes from axe thrust for a little bit of damage, like medium damage, to then a downward smash that can knock enemies back. And that's your sixth Y attack. So you have horizontal, horizontal, slight, downward. Followed by shield bash, axe thrust, and then downward smash. Let me just unlock so you can kind of see the attacks. There you go. Alright, so those are your Y attacks. Most of your damage is near the end, which is true for pretty much every combo in the game. Maybe there's an exception to that, but in most cases you start off with low damage and it finishes with higher damage. So if you're going to commit to something, you might as well get some attacks in. However, with heavy attacks, you can deal more damage in less time in most situations. So like, I'm going to kill this enemy and I'm going to see how much damage I actually deal total, and we'll compare that to just spamming quick heavy attacks. Alright, so we'll just smack this monk. We did get a crit there. Alright, we did 700 damage with a crit. Great. I can guarantee you that there are attack chains with heavy attacks that are much faster than that that'll deal more damage. So keep that in mind when spamming Y attacks. Okay, X attack, the class action. So when you have a shield, when your class gauge is full, hit X. It does an attack. This attack can be used at any time. The difference between creating this ward or not is if you have a shield or full gauge. So what this does is it reduces damage, physical damage taken, by around 20 to 30%. Based on testing, it also reduces allies' damage taken. So I did test it. I had an enemy hit me with a basic attack inside and outside of the ward a few times. I had them hit Claude inside and outside of the ward a few times. And the damage reduction seems to be 20 to 30% physical. And that is without this upgrade that this class can get. So if we go here, Armored Infantry's Ploy improves physical damage reduction inside the areas created by Armored Knight and Fortress Knight. So I don't know what this value is. It could be 5%, it could be 10%, it could be 20%. But this stacking with the existing 25, it seems to be closer to 25 to 30 than 20 to 30. This could be massive damage reduction versus physical, and this is actually a really good class for like holding positions and just reducing damage in general. Like a 20, even if it's just 20%, like 20% damage reduction versus physical is huge. Like Death Knight and Byleth are really big threats in this game, so being able to reduce the damage you take from them is huge. But aside from that, you have your YX, which is an uppercut. It's kind of lower on the damage side, but it's just a quick uppercut, just a launcher, just to get like a chain going or keep a juggle going. This class has a hard time juggling because it attacks so slow, but it does have a passive called Impregnable that when you use a heavy attack, you cannot get interrupted, which is pretty nice. So you can basically safely heavy attack. The only downside is if you get hit, you still take damage. Okay, and then YYX is a Meteor Slam. So it's like a shield bash slam that deals decent damage. So there it is. And then YYYX. This is your best damage attack. The second hit does pretty good damage. It hits twice. YYYX is your biggest, like, fastest damage as far as I can tell. It's faster than your 6 attack chain, and it generally will deal more damage than it in a shorter period of time. And then you have your 4YX, which I actually recommend against using. Okay, so it does this like uppercut, this like spinning uppercut that deals kind of low damage. I honestly don't think it's that good, your 4YX. I think your best combos are YYX and YYYX, because like YYYX just deals more damage than 4YX. I don't know why that is. I'll show it. I'll prove it, right? Now random crits will always change your damage, but alright, here's Y, 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 X. Alright, so 1,000 damage. Y, 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 X. Alright, we did get a crit, but even with the crit, like I did 1.2k, so if the crit just added like 100 or 200 damage, that still gets you like similar damage. The thing is, I'm going to kill him with a chain, so I need an enemy that won't die. I wish you could change the health settings on these things and like get rid of the second ally. That would be nice. Alright, so we'll do it here. So Y, 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 X, they're blocking. Okay, it's gonna be hard to prove this, but I kind of was able to when I hit that spear enemy. I was able to get all the hits off, and the damage was similar, and it just takes less time. Because you have to do fewer attacks to get there. So yeah, those are your attacks. Also note, you can interrupt other X attacks if they have like a chain. So for example, if I do Y, Y, X, and then I hit X again, you can do your class action. So instead of doing the second hit, you can do the shield slam class action. Alright, so let's talk about class tactics. So the physical damage reduction zone lasts for a very long time, around 1 minute and 15 seconds. I used a stopwatch and checked, and it was like around 1 minute 15. The damage reduction is around 25 to 30% physical. So I can kind of show that if this attacks me. It takes forever sometimes for enemies to attack you. Alright, hits an 18 on me with basic attack. Let's get it out here. Hit me. Hit me. Do it. I dare you. It blocked when I blocked. Claude makes this difficult too because he just keeps attacking it. No, what are you doing? Hit me. Come on, Claude, stop. Claude's being annoying. Alright, that's a different attack, obviously. Hit me with a basic attack. Do it. It's like super hard to like test things sometimes in this game because like everything's so chaotic. Alright, it hit a 23 with the basic attack. It's hard to say if that was the same basic attack. Let's see. Alright, 23 to 17. Okay, so that's the damage reduction in that case. So there you go. So I kind of proved it. Alright. So, you can have multiple physical damage reduction zones at the same time. So example, let me just get a block. Oh, that was like super delayed, that orb. Just need to wait for someone to hit me. Or try to. Do it! There we go. Alright, perfect guard gets you. It instantly fills your thing. So you can just keep spamming these. You basically want to just keep getting perfect guards. There's a huge upside to perfect guards too. It shuts enemies down. It disables them. It can't even hit me right there. Come on, dude. You kind of have to be stupid and slow and kind of like give it to enemies. Now, obviously, like more end game and more mid game, things are going to be attacking frequently, so you have more opportunities. And then there are abilities that provoke enemies into attacking, and you can perfect guard off of anything from any direction. All right, that was like a bad guard there. That was like too delayed because of the slow orb. But all right, so here's some notes about like perfect guarding in general. So perfect guarding is better than dodging on this class because it allows you to nullify damage on perfect guard, which is hugely important. You can even tank magic if you do it correctly. It interrupts enemies and like refills your gauge so that you can drop one of these physical damage reduction zones. And you can see here I have like a few going, and you can just keep them going. Like you can just keep making them. So you can maintain it easily if you're playing as this class, and you'll increase the tanking of your team substantially. And even if you just want to switch to this character, like to your Fortress Knight, for like a short period of time, get a perfect guard, throw a physical reduction zone down, and then switch back to DPS, that'll drastically increase your team's durability against physical. Okay. Perfect guard, you do not need to be facing the enemy to perfect guard it. You can be facing in any orientation, doesn't matter. So you always have to look around you to see what's about to attack. So like right there, I saw this dude was winding up. There was like a particle effect around his attack. Same thing with that mage there. So you can perfect guard off of fodder. Perfect guard's kind of weird in that you can get hit and then perfect guard. So like, let's see if I can get two enemies attacking at the same time. Or even just, you can even perfect guard it like mid-chain. Let's see if I can get him to chain me again. Do it. I dare you. They're like so hesitant. Okay, I whiffed it there. I don't know the timing on this because he's just kind of random when he is attacking. Alright, so you saw I got hit twice and I was able to perfect guard. The thing that cancels perfect guard is spamming guard. So it seems that every like 1 to 2 seconds it resets. So you have like a if you fail a perfect guard, you have like a 1 to 2 second reset before you can even attempt one. And as long as you're not getting like staggered and you can guard mid-attack. I'm just like waiting for him. I'm just proving that you can do it from the behind. Doesn't matter, orientation doesn't matter. So there you go. Okay, perfect guard instantly fills class gauge. Okay. I showed you being able to get hit and do it. Perfect guard checks for how long you've been blocking. Yep, 1 to 2 seconds. Can hold a position against... Okay, so this is like class tactics. You can hold a position against physical enemies. Can reduce damage on an attacking or defending team. So this is really good for fighting physical bosses. This is really good for fighting monsters. A lot of monsters are physical. It's just good for fighting physical threats, which this game has a ton of. I would say there's more physical threats than magic threats in this game. From what I've observed from bosses, most bosses... like most mage bosses are kind of pushovers and you just run them into the ground with any physical rushdown unit. But like the physical mage, like the physical bosses tend to actually be a threat with like high health and really good damage output, like Byleth and Death Knight. So this class has the damage reduction against the thing that's the biggest threat. Because if it was magic damage reduction, it would be useful in some situations, but not as useful as physical. Okay. So perfect guard, hold position. Okay, so this is a bad class versus magic due to res, but you can theoretically destroy mages if you just keep perfect guarding them and then just like knocking them down with your attacks, because mages have low physical defense, so guess what? You counter each other. So if you can just drop them really quick, get a perfect guard off the opening, or just dodge, you can still dodge in this class. It's just not as good as, you know, interrupting things. But you could always dodge behind things, start whacking them, standard stuff. Use your combat arts to open a mage up, kill it quickly. You can always switch to an allied unit, kill the mage quickly, and then switch back. That's something that's like an easy way to mitigate the downside. So your heavy attacks cannot be interrupted due to a class passive called Impregnable. You can abuse this to land heavy attacks without fear of getting interrupted, but you will take damage still. And then your basic X attack can interrupt other heavy. Okay, I already went over that. Alright, so for class abilities... Well, actually, let me just go over like general battlefield stuff for this. So... this class, I would say, if you want to start killing things, like it depends on how you want to play it. Like, you can play this as, like, an offensive class. Like, you don't have to be in this, like, defensive mindset. Like, you can just run up to something and just like start attacking it. You don't have to just like wait around for enemies. You can always build your class action over time, and then just like randomly perfect guard fodder like this, and then just go after a thing. Like, you don't have to be passive, you don't have to be waiting. If anything, you're probably better off pressuring. Dodging behind things, getting attacks in. Doing combos like this. Because you might think, oh, I'm a defensive class, I want to block all the time. It's like, no, you wanna counter when it makes sense. You wanna still be wailing on things and dominating them. You don't want to just wait around. Now, if enemies are attacking frequently, you can really easily get off perfect guards. In this case, these are like low-level enemies that are hesitant to attack. So like in a higher level situation, it'd be easier just to grab a perfect guard just to fill your gauge. And the other thing too is you don't always need to fill your gauge, right? Like if it makes more sense just to kill something, or if you already have your ward down, just go to town and just start whomping on things, you know, just like fuck them up. And the big upside of this X attack is when enemies don't get launched and moved by your heavy attacks, you can combo them passively just by using it after an attack and then dodge, because it's very fast. So I just wanted to cover like the offense aspect of this. And your X attack can be comboed off of launchers. Oh yeah, and then also when you're moving, when you get into a sprint, you damage enemies slightly. You push them. Or maybe it just pushes them. I don't think it's actually damage. Or no. Damaging? Yeah, it's just pushing them. Yeah, so you push enemies. And then you can instantly get into a sprint by dashing. So like here's me just running. Then it gets into a sprint, and then here's a dash. So I'm running. Alright, so dash. Now I'm in a sprint. This is useful for mobility, for dodging. This class has like kind of bad mobility, but it's good enough that you can get around. So it's good to do this, you know, to reposition. And don't be afraid to leave your ward if you're going to be able to secure a kill or something. Because if you have something stun locked and you're killing it, you can always just dodge spam back to your ward. And then you're slightly safer. Oh, is that unblockable? Is that what that is? Okay. Alright, let's go over the passives now and then like kind of wrap up here. Then we'll kind of wrap up here. Alright. So the passives, it's very limited as far as I can tell. You have defensive tactics, which just halves damage done to battalions. You have Axe Prowess, which is plus 10% per rank unlocked. So if you have 3 classes that you unlock Axe Prowess on, it'll add up 10% per mastery. So if there's multiple Axe Prowesses and you want to run an Axe class, get all of them because there's no downside. So get it from Fighter, Warrior, and Armored Knight in this case. And no matter what Axe class you're using, whether it be Wyvern Rider, Wyvern Lord, Great Knight, whatever, Warrior, you're going to have a static, like a passive damage increase that's as high as it can be. So huge upside. True for every single thing. Lance Prowess. So in this case, you would want to get Soldier, Cav, and then Paladin. And now you have Lance Prowess 3, which is plus 30% Lance damage. Okay, and then you have Lightning Axe. So the combat arts I've seen, Lightning Axe and Shredder. And then you have Armored Infantry's Ploy and Armored Infantry's Wisdom. So Armored Infantry's Ploy increases the damage reduction effect of your ward, which is pretty nice. And then Armored Infantry's Wisdom prevents status effects, or nullifies status effects. So both of them are very good. This is a very good utility damage bruiser. It has good like bulk, it has good damage, it has good dueling potential, like pretty safe heavy attacks, aside, like assuming you're not getting hit by magic. If you're fighting physical things, even if it's like a weakness of yours, like the damage reduction helps. But overall, it's a pretty useful utility. I tend to run 1 in like large maps. For small maps, where it's just like 4-man, it's mostly about damage, so I'd argue it's not as useful. I would say this class mostly shines on the large chapter maps where we have 8 deployed units. I don't believe you can order this class to deploy its class action. but it might do it just by attacking passively. AI is kind of hard to control as like your friend in this game. It just kind of does stupid stuff and kind of waits and then attacks, then waits and then attacks, sometimes blocks. It doesn't use weapon skills, combat arts. Doesn't really use tactics. Sometimes it'll do a chain or two, but what I've found is if I have like 5 to 6 AI attacking a fortress, like all out offensive, like a single unit, they will kill something slower than just me attacking a single thing, doing combos and shit. And we're all the same level with the same strength weapons. So like AI is substantially worse than a player, which is fine because if it was too good, it would carry you. So I'm not complaining about that. It's just an observation and something you should be aware of. It takes like 6+ AI to not even deal as much damage as you. So like if you have 3 AI pushing like a fortress or something, or a stronghold trying to capture something, they're going to do it at a much slower rate. So just something to keep in mind. But especially units like this, AI won't be dealing that much damage. It's like AI is not going to start doing stuff like this. It's not going to start like going to town and like being hyper aggressive. It's never going to do that. So it's going to kind of be like it'll do like some basic attacks. It'll block for a bit. It'll like move around. Like let's just watch Claude. Let's just see what he does this whole fight. There's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of delays. You can see he's just kind of chilling out there, like waiting. Like he's just straight up spent like seconds doing nothing. Like multiple times throughout us observing him. Like he just wasted like 5 seconds just like moving around. He could be constantly attacking, but he's not going to do that. So yeah, that's Fortress Knight. It's a pretty good class. Or I'm sorry, Fortress Knight. Armored Knight. Or is it Fortress Knight? It is Oh, I don't know why what am I thinking of Fortress Knight from? What is that from? I don't even know why I'm thinking Fortress Knight. Oh wait, that's the next level. Okay, that's where I got that from. I was like, I know this is a thing. I just don't know from where. It's like it's the next tier up. I'm kind of disappointed they got rid of General. I think that's a cooler title. It's basically General though, like Armored Knight and General is like, you know, kind of a combination of the two. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, if you found this useful, definitely like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Also drop a comment, let me know what you use Fortress Knights for, what the use case you like, you know, what your use case for them is, what you equip on them, some good passives for them. This is one of my early saves where I only have like low-level units. I actually did this on purpose because if you're too high level and you go to this training area, it's actually very difficult to like test damage because you kill every basic enemy, like these monks, in like 2 hits. So like the lower the level, the better for these basic classes. On like advanced and master classes, I'll have to actually be in a real map and just kind of run through the abilities there and just order all the allies away from me, which actually would be easier because then I could control what Claude would be doing in this case, because like he'll interrupt things. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you in the next one.